Hey, this is an important lesson, something I'm extremely familiar with. I'll edit that out of this video. Since I've been debating Buddhists for decades now. What's going on in Canada? We can learn an extremely valuable lesson. I don't know if you saw the tweets, and there's not just one thing like this. There are countless things like this out of the Canadian government. I don't presume to take sides for or against Canada. I've certainly supported the people, and also too the people that want their freedom from tyranny. But it was just kind of the cherry on top of the cake. Is that the Canadian Prime Minister tweeted out and said to everybody, he called the truckers down there that are against the mandates every dirty name in the book. Every single one. When you can't actually confront somebody based upon the facts and upon logic, what you do is you slander them, you shut them up, you defame them. His tweet, the Canadian Prime Minister, I forget what his name is. You could refresh I think it's Justina Castro. Justina Castro? I think that's the name. He said that he called the people down there, he called them, I hate to, because the algorithms are always listening, I hate to even use the words that the PM called the freedom people against tyranny. He called them phobics against alternative lifestyle people. You know the word I'm like. He basically said they're like white pointy hat wearing, SS officers that were phobic. He called them every, shocking. He used the R word against them too. There are a bunch of truckers down there that have two bouncy castles, a bunch of pizza ovens, someone brought a jacuzzi, they're partying in the streets. There's a bunch of Canadian Indian, right? Not Native American Canadians, but Canadian Indian from India, truck drivers, and one guy is an Iranian Canadian, and he was saying what's going on now in his new country of Canada reminds him of what he left back in Iran. Calling people, it's just all such defamatory BS. When you can't confront somebody on the facts, it's like, there's just a bunch of, easygoing Canadians down there. There's no evidence to the contrary, except for the false reports that are being generated by the government. There's nothing. I encounter this too. These people, they live in a nutshell, sniffing their own farts. They do. They live in their own little nutshell, sniffing their own farts. They have no idea how the world works. The United States has the same problem. And these people, like the crazy chick with the two $20,000 freezers for her luxury ice cream. These people are out of touch. They haven't got a clue. They have no idea how the world works. If it were up to me, and I'm not into politics at all, I'm really not, I just don't give a damn, because they're all evil, lying, filthy filth, is that nobody would be allowed to vote unless they were 40 or 50 years old. You have to have a matured brain, kind of like a fine bottle of wine, right? It's only good after it's matured for a while. You couldn't vote unless you were like 45, let's say that. You could not be a politician unless you honorably served in one of the armed forces for no less than 4 years. The reason for that is that these are people that know how the world works. Some of these people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they go on to be politicians because they want more power, and that's what they want. There's some of the dumbest people alive. They're so incredibly clueless. So you couldn't vote unless you're 45. You couldn't be a politician unless you served 4 years in the armed forces. It would be even better if nobody would be allowed to vote unless they themselves were 45 and had served in the armed forces, one of the armed forces. Man, things would change overnight. Wouldn't that be awesome? It's never going to happen, of course. Could not vote unless you were 45 and had honorably served in the armed forces for X period of time. Man, that would fix fix 95% of the issues right there. They have nothing in support of their positions. These people are slandering. I mean, they're Canadians, for God's sakes. You should learn from Canadians. People that want to slander you and shut you down, do whatever. It means they're afraid. It means they're weak. They say that the Canadian government is on the verge of capitulating. And what are they going to do? You know, now here's something else. I find it extremely I don't find it. It is hypocritical. That I saw a bunch of protesters against. I always wanted to go to Canada. They're so beautiful. A rich buddy goes up there all the time, talks about how clean it is, so on and so forth. I hear it's not that way anymore in some of the big cities. I heard it used to be, but it's not anymore. Is that there were, it's like the Canadian socialists, which I don't care what they or anybody believe in. They were protesting against the truckers. Let me get this straight. Let me ask Canadians, since I'm not Canadian, let me ask you a question, Mr. and Mrs. Canadian, or anybody else with a brain. Having lived in communist Russia for quite a long time, yeah. Karl Marx, for example, and one of his mottos was "Workers of the world unite." It was about like the farmer and the fire. I have no love for Marx, by the way. I got a neat book. You should find it on Amazon. The title of the book is called, it's The Secret History of Karl Marx, by the way. It's called Marx and Satan. That's the title of the book, Marx and Satan. Look it up. I got a question for the Canadians. Why is it that the people, the socialists, yeah, are protesting the truckers? Wasn't it Marx who said, workers of the world unite? There is nobody that is more blue-collar, down-to-earth, and work hard, low pay than a trucker. So let me get this straight here now. These people whose hero is Mr. Workers of the World Unite, those people are the ones that are against the blue-collar, hard-working, poorly paid truckers. Let me get that right. They're not protesting the bankers and the stock manipulators and speculators or the politicians. No, they're against the workers. Like the general definition of like a farmer, a trucker, you know, a machinist, a factory worker. The top four there would be, one of them is trucker. The definition of worker. Of course, they didn't have truckers back then, the days of Karl Marx, but that's definitely the definition of a worker, you know, blue collar, hardworking. So the socialists are against those people. I'd like to know how that works. Is that hypocrisy? Is it stupidity? Is it hypocrisy and stupidity? It's just a simple question. But the world could take a big lesson from Canada. I've been dealing with this stuff for decades and debating the book. It's like, you know, nothing you say is logical. It's not based in doctrine. It's nonsensical. You know, I know this is your belief. They'll tell me this stuff over and over again. I know this is your belief, which is fine, but how is that actually doctrine? How is it logical? Because it doesn't actually teach that. I mean, even any Christian, if you're having a debate in Christianity or any other religion, yeah, which had no connection to religions, like ultimately, the person with a half a brain is like, you know, it's interesting that you say that, but where can you find that in the Bible? Or in the Torah? Or, you know, in the Quran? Where is that? You know? Because pretty sure since and this is stuff you encounter. If someone can't debate it, then they will slander you and trash you and start calling names. And that's exactly, and it's a sign of weakness and immaturity. If they can't debate you on the facts, logic, and wisdom, then they're weak and immature, and they have nothing to stand upon. You know, if like I'm debating XYZ doctrine, then I'm standing on the doctrine. Yeah, it's like, in other words, I have countless evidences, like, you know, this is what it teaches because it says right here. Whereas the other person, they have nothing to stand upon. They have nothing to, you know, backing them up. And since they have nothing backing them up and nothing to stand on, what they'll do is they'll slander you, defame you, shut you down, shut you up. And that is the great sickness that is plaguing the modern world. I saw it coming at high speed off in the distance back in the early 90s. I saw it like a train in the distance on a flat land. It's coming at high speed. Some other people saw it, but now everybody's getting run over by it. So take a lesson from what Justina Castro wrote in his tweet, defaming the truckers, calling them every dirty name in the book. Yes, people with bouncy castles in the streets and pizza ovens and jacuzzis who don't want to be told how to live their lives and just want to pay the bills, drive a truck, feed their family, and don't want to have a tyranny rained on their head. Oh, those are the people you want to defame? Oh, well, that makes perfect sense in an alternate universe where stupidity equals wisdom. Go Canada, eh? Oh my God.